My name is Kirk Watson, and I chair the Senate Democratic Caucus. Let me just say a few things. The fact is that Texas economy and its workers, business owners, and employers need a very few basic things from those in control of government and the legislature. And they need these basic things, and it hadn't been getting better for them over the past several years. They need good schools, colleges, universities to train Texas's future workers. They need reliable water supplies, roads, and transportation networks. They need efficient and effective hospitals, clinics, and nursing homes. A fair system that serves small business owners and entrepreneurs as much as large corporations. And they need an open, honest budget that reflects our state's real needs and the real costs of meeting those needs. In all of these areas, Texas can do much better than it's been doing, and hardworking Texans deserve much better than they've been getting. Texas Democrats will work with all sides this session to do a couple of things. Reform state government. Reform state government with honest accounting and greater transparency. We will make clear the challenges that Texas faces, and we will be honest about those challenges and then work to address them in an open, accountable way that Texans can trust. We have dug a deep hole when it comes to using budget gimmicks and doing things like using dedicated revenue funds to balance the budget. It is time for some to stop being both the victim and the perpetrator and us to focus on actually providing reform of state government with an honest budget. We must find a permanent solution that fairly funds our schools and prepares our kids, again, our future workers and our future employers, for the challenges and opportunities they'll face in the 21st century. We should start by taking basic steps like fixing the margins tax that was supposed to provide for that education system and has been, as a result of denial and deception, covered up session after session in its failure to provide that funding. We should start by taking that basic step and assuring that businesses and special interests pay their fair share for the state school. When it has been said today, the phrase that something to the effect that we take in more than we need, we should pay attention to what happened just last session, when for the first time in the known history of our state, we failed to fund enrollment growth in public education. And it doesn't appear that as of yet, we are going to restore that. In other words, the effort to create a new normal shouldn't be used to try to define taking in more than you need. That is particularly true when you look at the margins tax, which has never taken in what we were told it was going to take in. We should also build, and the Democrats will work to build efficient, effective, and reliable road and transportation systems and water supplies. It has been too long that we have talked about what we need to do. We are on the verge of creating the first generation of Texans that will not inherit capacity in their infrastructure as they try to make their way in the economy they will want to build and they will want to enjoy. Democrats will work to protect the middle class by restoring basic necessities that have been stripped away from women, children, and the elderly, and restoring money and needs, necessities for the Women's Health Program. We will work to strengthen the mental health system to adequately serve people in need, reduce future health care and public safety costs, and protect all middle-class Texans. Democrats will ensure the state is doing as much to support small businesses as big corporations. And we will work to create an opportunity agenda for the middle class that expands early childhood education, shows the runaway growth of college tuition, promotes the clean energy we'll need in the 21st century, and makes other low-risk, high-reward investments that will help ensure our state's continued prosperity. The simple truth is that we all, Democrat and Republican, urban and rural, we all love Texas deeply. We all want Texas to enjoy success in this century just as it did in the past one. And we know that in all of these areas I've just talked about, Texas can do better. No more excuses. It's time for Texas to do better.
Thank you, Senator. At this time, I'd like to introduce several House members who will have comments from the House perspective. We'll start with Representative Wu from Houston, if you'd come up.
Thank you very much. This is my first time in the legislature, and this is the first time listening to the governor speak. And I was actually surprised that the governor said that he's really willing to invest in our state and invest in our growth. But the thing that kind of bothered me was, you know, as a business person, you always hear about both investing in infrastructure and investing in your people. What I heard was a lot about investing in infrastructure, roads, water, but not nearly enough about investing in our people. Our teachers are still some of the lowest paid teachers anywhere in this great nation. Right. And we're asking more of them. We're asking them to work harder, asking them to be more accountable, but we're not paying them anymore. Right. And you know, my parents taught me, you get what you pay for. If we expect great things, we need to be able to invest in our people. There's still millions of our neighbors and our fellow citizens without health care, even though they work a full day's work, and they work really hard to keep our state going. What about help for them? What about their medical needs if they get injured on the job? What about taking care of their children, to provide basic care that prevents them from having to use the emergency room as their only source of health care? We want the governor and the leaders of the state to invest in our people as well as the places. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll have Naomi from El Paso, District 76.
Thank you, Chair Davis. I have to say that I'm not sure what parallel universe Governor Perry is living in, but I can tell you that it is not the district that I represent. Because the concerns of my district, the citizens of the district that I represent, are not those in which you share today. Because the people of the citizens of District 76, and I think of the people of most Texans, are concerned about how are they going to put their child through college? How are they going to put food on the table? How are they going to keep their house from being foreclosed on? That is what people of Texans are looking at on a day-to-day basis. And as much as we like to tout as a state on how fiscally conservative we are, the fact of the matter is we live from paycheck to paycheck. And that is why come April, we are going to have to dip into the rainy day fund or some fund to pay approximately $5 billion for the fact that we haven't paid our Medicaid. We are facing some very serious choices this legislative session. We are fortunate that we have a surplus, but how are we going to spend that money? Now, we heard from the governor, he doesn't want to spend that money, that we're fine, that everything's rosy. But the fact of the matter is, we had some very, very serious cuts last session. We need to restore money to education. We need to restore money to health care, because the bottom line is, we know education is an investment in our future. For every $1 we spend in education, we get $30 back in our future. That is money we know that is well spent. And when we're looking at the future of our state, we are helping future Texans end cycles of poverty. I am one of those Texans. Had I not had an access to an education, I would still be in the welfare system. Thanks to an education and to systems like the Texas Equalization Grant Program, I am now one of 150 members of the House of Representatives. with these fine people today making policy choices on people that affect students like me. So you better believe that I am going to be fighting along these fine members of the House of Representatives to restore educational funding for students of Texas. And that is what we need to focus on, education, because we know that that is the best infrastructure for the state of Texas.
We don't want to take it long, but at this time we'll hear from Joe Desa, and he'll be our last speaker, and at that time there are any questions.
Thank you, Representative. My concern was, as I'm going to emphasize on public education, and some of the words, the terminology that the governor used, he used the word scholarship, and who can be against scholarship, but that was interpreted as vouchers. I guess that's the new word for vouchers. We're going to give scholarships. Choice is a bad word when it comes to women's health care, but choice is a good word when it comes to charter schools. So I think it was sort of an attack I saw on public education as we're trying to develop it. We cut the funds, then we want to expand charter schools, then we want to give vouchers to kids to go to other schools aside and help build the private schools that are trying to be built around this country. We saw it happen with our prison system. We saw that going privatized. Now we're going to see our education system, if certain people have their way, become all privatized, and then the public school system would be left to a core of individuals who cannot afford an education. We must stand up against this, and we must not let nomenclature and fancy words mislead what's actually being done. These scholarships, we know what they are. They're vouchers. So we need to stand up. We need to stand up for public education. We need to stand up for this testing and roll back these STARS tests. We need to have a lot of work done in that area so that teachers can start teaching our kids and not getting them ready to pass these standardized tests. Thank you.
I know everybody's working hard to get their stories done, and you just heard the state of the state. If anybody has a couple of questions, what we'll do is we'll take a couple of questions and let y'all get to work right.
Obviously, you don't think there's $1.8 billion to give back to taxpayers with these other restoration needs. Can you speak even to how that would be logistically done?
No, I think we would have to look to the governor to tell us how he intends to do that. And particularly, that's why I focused on the phrase that taking in more than you need. One of the things that I have said now for some time is that one of the failures in our budget system, one of the things that we need to reform, is we need to be candid, honest, open, and transparent about what the real needs are. And that's a failing in our budget system. We saw it very much last session, where, for example, the budget when we left was balanced, if you will. Mm-hmm. The columns both added up. But the only way it was balanced is by failing to recognize expenditures, real needs that everyone knew we were going to have in Medicaid spending over the biennium, but it just wasn't put in the budget. So I'll leave it to the governor to tell us how he intends to try to do something, but most importantly, what we ought to all do as citizens of the state of Texas, the state that we love, is we ought to demand honesty in the budgeting process about what those real needs are, so that when we start talking about taking in more than you need, we can be candid about what that really means. Other questions?
Could one of you comment on the governor's comments that he's definitely still not wanting to expand Medicaid?
Well, first of all,
Yeah.
I think you're going to get disagreement in this room.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised
Yeah, we
if we
don't
didn't.
understand
Look,
that.
here's the bottom line. I'll put it this way. I happen to believe strongly in the economic development of our state. And one of the things that I believe in is that there are programs that help us develop the economy. Set aside for a minute what a Medicaid expansion would do to the health, the good health of the people in this state. Just set that aside for a minute. What it would do from an economic perspective for our state is pretty significant, if not phenomenal. But yet, almost because of just disliking who might have won an election, we're not going to focus on something that will make citizens of this state healthier and make our economy healthier. So I'm still puzzled by those who speak about wanting to do right by the economy, but failing to do something that would really help the economy. The other thing I'll say, I remain puzzled by those who talk in terms of being the taxpayer's friend, but yet aren't willing to get those taxpayers' dollars back to those taxpayers in Texas so they can be used in Texas. The fact of the matter is that Texans, hardworking Texans, are paying an income tax that goes to Washington, but yet those in control of this building are indicating they don't want to get those tax dollars back. Instead, they want those tax dollars to go to some other state. So I believe we need to continue to talk about the Medicaid expansion and not take no for an answer.
Are you encouraged by the governor's two proposals regarding the rainy day fund?
I'm encouraged that for the first time in 4 years, we've actually heard that we can spend money out of the rainy day fund. If you recall that during the last session, the rainy day fund, it was a matter of strong political dogma that it couldn't be touched. Even when we were being told that we're going to have to, for example, not fund enrollment growth in our public education system for the first time in the known history of the state. If you recall, State Representative Donna Howard, who's standing right back here, had a proposal that would have held the rainy day fund harmless,
That's right.
but still would have allowed for money, and it would have worked, by the way. We now know, not only was it a very crafty, smart proposal, we now know it would have worked, but the rainy day fund was off limits. So I am encouraged that we can now look to a source of funds that might help us meet some of our needs and necessities. We need, based upon the speech we heard, we didn't get any detail to that, and we'll need to see that.
That's right.
Thank you all very much.